Welcome to Late Night Live, Helen.
Thank you.
You've been in politics for many, many years, but you originally planned for law as a career. Do you have any regrets that you didn't go into law?
Yes, I think I'd have made a very good lawyer. I'm sorry I didn't do law, but I've learnt an awful lot of law in the 36 years that I was in Parliament, watching laws being made and opposing laws being made and watching laws being repealed. So that I have learnt a great deal of law. In fact, I'm probably the best unqualified lawyer south of the equator.
I'm sure, Helen, it's impossible to give us a potted history, but can you tell us about the era of the split in the United Party?
Oh, that's so long ago, yes. That was way back in '59, when 12 of us decided that the United Party, to which we belonged, and in fact under whose auspices we'd been elected to Parliament, was not fighting apartheid unequivocally. And after one of the congresses, where we felt the United Party had really taken a very retrogressive step in saying it was not going to hand over the land that had been promised under the 1936 Land Act, because Dr. Verwoerd was now talking about independent Bantustans, we decided we would break. It was the last straw. I mean, it wasn't just the only issue. And then we formed the Progressive Party almost 30 years ago to the day, actually.
Really?
Yes, well, it was in August 1959, so it's just over that.
In the election of October 18th, 1961, you recalled later, and I must read this, it's a quote, and this is your words. "I was the only one who really wanted to get out. Politics made me sick. I saw no hope for the future, but thought I may as well go down with flags flying." Yet you were the only one left.
Well, I mean, that was just the electorate and fate, you might say. I mean, it wasn't designed by me. We all stood for re-election in 1961, and I was the only one who retained a seat for the Progressive Party.
How did that make you feel?
Terrible. I was dead scared. I was going back alone. I had no friends there. I had no one to back me up. No one even to second any of the private members' motions or any other motion that I might be moving in Parliament. So it wasn't too easy. And however, one just got on with the job.
What was a day in the life in Parliament like for you when you were on your own there?
Oh, well, it depended, of course, on the agenda. But if it was the sort of day where I had to talk on perhaps 2 or 3 different measures, that was tough, because one would have to prepare, say, 2 or 3 different speeches, and you had to be in your seat to make sure that you were around when the particular item on the order paper came up. I had no whip, you see, and in Parliament you depend very much on the whips to tell you when you're going to speak and to tell you when the next item on the agenda is likely to come up. So I relied very heavily on the officials of Parliament, and I must say they were absolutely wonderful to me. I could always go to them for help and say, have you any idea how long this debate will last? And if they had an idea, they would tell me. They often didn't have, of course, because the whips hadn't told them.
Did you ever feel like giving it all up during that 13 years you were by yourself?
Probably every day. But, you know, there was always something to keep one going, because there were very important issues cropped up in Parliament over the period that I was alone, which was 61 to 74. Those were the years in which all those detention without trial laws were introduced, and I was the only one to oppose them. That was the time when Dr. Verwoerd was tightening up on all the laws that prohibited black people from coming into the urban areas, the past laws, influx control, and one had a lot to say on all of those. I mean, looking at the back issue of Hansard of those days, I really found I've been speaking on very many issues.
Your relationship with the other politicians in Parliament, I know on the floor, opposing, was it the same outside of Parliament as well?
Yes, there's not an awful lot of fraternisation across the party lines in South Africa. Different from the House of Commons in England, or even Congress in America, where you will see members of different parties having meals together and so on. Of course, one does meet at social functions, diplomatic functions and so on, and you behave in a civilized way. I mean, you don't walk up to the guy that you've been berating in Parliament a couple of hours before and throw your whiskey and soda in his face. I mean, you don't do that. But there's no real chumminess, and I mean, normally the parties sit by themselves in the parliamentary dining room. There's a private dining room, and the tables are more or less allocated. So many tables to the National Party, so many tables to the Conservative Party and so many tables to what was, when I was there, the Progressive Federal Party. Now will be the Democratic Party. So I hope with more seats.
In your party, in the Progressive Party, this 13 years when you were by yourself, does that mean you were eating by yourself as well?
I used to have a sandwich up in my room. Well, you know, people like to talk caucus matters when they sit down in this private dining room. And I would have been an embarrassment to them, and, you know, I just wasn't going to push myself onto them. But, of course, there's the dining room where you're allowed to have guests, and that's different. I occasionally had guests, and then I'd eat in the dining room.
So now, you were on your own for the 13 years. Then it changed in 1974.
Yes, it was lovely.
Where were you? What were you doing? How did you feel when those results started coming in?
Oh, it was the most exciting moment. I think my count in the actual election in Houghton was still coming through when somebody, quite illegally, my dad popped his head in through the window of the schoolroom where the count was going on and screamed, "We've won Joburg North." And I mean, I was absolutely ecstatic. Selma Brodie was then my provincial councillor, and the two of us just sort of waltzed down the route. We were so excited. And then another 5 victories came through for the Progressive Party. And after that, we all repaired to a large tent in Houghton, near Killarney. In those days, Killarney was part of the Houghton constituency. Now it's part of Parktown. And everybody waited for every result to come through. And it was absolutely wonderful. We were all delirious with excitement.
That was the first time for Houghton, for the seat to be fought, wasn't it? It used to be non-contested before.
Well, it was unopposed when I was in the United Party. That was from 1953, and it was unopposed in 1958. But in 1961, I was opposed by Mr. Miller of the United Party, and I only won by 564 votes. So it's not a very comfortable margin. But I'm glad to say that at each successive election, I seem to increase my majority, and the last time was just on 4,000, so it wasn't too bad.
Back to 1974, there was then 7 of you in the Progressive Party elected for Parliament. Were you the Magnificent 7?
I think we were pretty good, you know. We were all very motivated, and we'd all worked hard to get those extra seats, and we were constantly fighting these contentious laws that were being introduced. And I mean, it was really very nice. I remember when I walked in after the 74 election, and the 6 Progressives came in behind me to be sworn in, as happens every time after a general election. One Nat Wag called out, "There comes Mrs. Rosenkovitz." You'll remember the lady had 6 houses, which I thought was quite funny.
We've actually got a picture of the kids, of the 7,
yes.
Which I think we can see on our monitor, if we're lucky.
Where's the monitor?
Not at the moment. There it is. Can you see it over there, Helen?
Oh, yes.
Can you recognise any of those faces?
Of course, all of them. What a lot of...
Who are they there from left to right?
Colin Eglin is in the middle there, large as life, of course, as he always was, and then myself below, and then Gordon Waddle is up top, Alex Lorraine is up top. Can't see who the other one is.
I think just off the edge of the screen is Frederick from Slabbert, looking very young.
Slabbert, and then there must have been Rupert Lorimer, because he won Orange Grove, and Rene de Villiers, who won Parktown.
The Magnificent 7.
Yes.
The Rosenkovitz kids.
The Rosenkovitz kids.
Helen,
we were great chums, so it was really very nice.
Is it true to say that the race issue in South Africa has overshadowed some larger global issues, like the environment, like abortion? Would that be true to say?
Yes, well, it is the major issue in this country. Always was, always will be, I think, until it's solved, if it ever is. And there are other issues, and of course every time a bill is introduced, you look at the principle of the bill and see whether you're going to support it or you're going to oppose it, and you try and get amendments through, and so on. But, I mean, I, for instance, have often been asked, what would I do about women's issues? I've never made women's issues my major task in Parliament, but since discrimination against women on the basis of sex and gender is another form of discrimination, that, of course, used to motivate me as well. Indeed, I made my maiden speech on the subject of Bertha Solomon's bill on matrimonial affairs. And any time anything cropped up which did affect women, I was certainly on my feet. And I had a very interesting experience on a select committee in '84 when David Dalling and I were the 2 Progressive Federal Party representatives on the committee. which was set up to remove the last, what you might call it, legal disabilities of women. So that's that. Abortion is a free vote issue. It's a hot potato in every single country in the world.
Now you've retired, Helen, are you going to find it difficult to adjust to life in the slow lane?
Well, I think I'll miss quite a lot of it. I'll miss the challenge of debate, and I'll miss my chums in Parliament, because, you know, they'll be away in Cape Town, and I normally would have been with them for 5.5 months to 6 months of the year. But I'll retain friendships that, you know, are lasting friendships. And I will miss quite a lot of it. I haven't got any withdrawal symptoms yet, though, I might say. No, well, I mean, everybody thinks I need occupational therapy, so I've been busier, really, than I've ever been, I must say. But I will miss it, I think, yes.
And are you going to do more fishing? It's an unusual hobby.
Well, you know, it's rather nice to get away for a weekend and walk along the river and throw a line here and there, and even catch a fish now and then.
Well, I hope you do. Yes. Thanks for coming on the show. Helen Suzman.
Thank you.
Thank you. My next guest went into politics reluctantly and once found it was easier to get in than it was to get out. And now, after a lifetime in politics, he has finally achieved his original ambition to be a cattle farmer. Please welcome ex-Prime Minister of Rhodesia, Ian Smit. Ian Smit, welcome to Late Night Live. How was the rugby this afternoon?
It was a very good game. I'm pleased to say the Springboks acquitted themselves very well. It was good rugby all around. I was so pleased to have our visitors here, and they played good rugby. So it was a happy occasion. I think I can safely say that the Springboks won on merit, and that was a view that was given to me by some of the visitors. So it wasn't the view of a partial Southern African attending the rugby. It was a happy afternoon.
Have you always been a fan of the Springboks?
Yes. For the simple reason that we were always part of the scene. Rhodesia was an additional province of South Africa in sport. We had many great Rhodesian Springboks, both cricket and rugby. So it was part of our scene. So naturally, we always backed and supported the Springboks, and these things die hard. They will stay with us until we die, I think.
Did you play yourself?
Yes. I was mad on sport as a schoolboy, and I played a lot of sport, too much, I think, and because of my addiction to sport, my academic studies suffered.
Now, we're on the eve tonight of tomorrow's 50th anniversary of the Second World War. You were an RAF pilot during the war, Ian.
Yes.
And you were shot down, I believe, over Italy, is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Can you tell us about that?
I was shot down over the north of Italy on a ground strafing mission, a train busting mission. And I made a mistake. I think one does tend to become overconfident sometimes, and I had been fairly successful at this game. I made the mistake of coming back a second time, which was breaking a golden rule, because the first time you can very often get away with it, but then you have woken up all the ack gunners. And the second time they're ready for you. And they were ready for me, and they clobbered me, you see. So I then had to make for the coast. We were operating from the island of Elba, and we had ships moving around that part of the sea, so that if I could have got over to sea, I would have parachuted out into the sea and been picked up by one of these, but I didn't make it. My engine started burning, and my number two, who was flying behind me, told me of this, and I began to feel it was a bit hot around my seat, so I decided that I would better get out. So I had to take to a parachute, and in those days, it wasn't so easy, unlike nowadays where they have wonderful things like ejectors that just throw you out of the airplane.
Yeah.
It was very difficult. Sometimes people were killed. They got entangled with a propeller or a tailplane when they were jumping out. However, fortunately, it worked, and I met up with Italian partisans and lived with them. altogether, I had 5 months behind the lines with these people. And
what was that like with the partisans in Italy?
I think probably 5 of the most interesting months I've ever had in my life, and I've had quite a few other interesting ones as well. It was a stimulating experience.
Was there not a language problem at all?
There was, but I learned to speak Italian quite well, quite quickly. I had no option, I had to. But after a while, I did meet up with an English officer, a captain, who was living with some other people up in the hills. And from him and the family he was with, they lent me a dictionary, an English Italian dictionary, and a second book, which I had always loved and I enjoyed having. That was the complete works of William Shakespeare. So that kept me occupied.
How did you start in politics? Your reluctant start, I believe.
Yes. When I came back from the war, I wanted to farm. That had always been my great love in life. And I had just started farming. I finished my university degree. I had to go back to university for a year after the war because I broke my studies to go away. I couldn't sit at university while there was a war on. And I was settling into my farm when there was a general election in Rhodesia. And some people came along to me and asked me if I would stand in the election. I chased them away because I said I had many other things to do, but they persisted. I think perhaps I was quite a likely candidate in a small town where everybody knew everybody, and my old father was well known. He was the president of the rugby club and the cricket club and the chairman of the council and so on. And here was this bloke Smit who had a bit of a war record and who had got a university degree, and, you know, so they persisted. And I'm sorry to say that in the end I weakened and accepted that having fought the war for certain principles that I believed in, was I now going to let them all go by the board? Or was I going to do something to save my country? That was the argument. So I got involved in it, and after 5 years I decided it wasn't really my kettle of tea and I would like to get out. And so I went to the local committee and said, look, I've had enough, will you find another candidate? And they threw their hands up in horror and said, we've just given you 5 years training as an apprentice, and now you say you're going to walk out on us. So I found it was easier to get into this thing than get out of it.
Helen, your start in politics was also slightly reluctant, wasn't it?
Yes, I never really intended to go into Parliament, per se, because I had 2 children and a job. I was teaching economic history at the University of Witwatersrand, and I had a family, and it just didn't occur to me. But I, too, was asked whether I'd stand in the 52 nominations, and my husband was very encouraging. And in fact, you can't go into politics as a woman unless you have a supportive family. Otherwise, it's disaster. There was no doubt about the recipe for disaster. And I had got very interested by then in politics, really just after the 48 election when Smith's government went out of power. And I'd been doing quite a lot of work on the situation as it affected blacks in the urban areas. And I thought, well, okay. And I didn't think I'd win the nomination, but it was against Joyce Waring, and Eric Bell, who was the sitting member, had been there, I think, for about 14 years. I don't think I had a chance, but I did. I won it. You know, as I left with this baby, you know, not a baby of my own, but I mean the baby of politics.
Yes.
And then I had to go off down to Cape Town, and I stood again. I was unopposed there, and unopposed for nomination and for election in 58. And then, of course, came the break in 59, and the rest you know.
Ian, tell us what led up to UDI.
It was the breakup of the Federation, which was quite illegal according to the then leaders. If you read books by people like Roy Walensky and Whitehead, they told us, and I think legally this is correct, that when the Federation was set up, it was indissoluble. I remember as a young politician asking to have a clause included in the Constitution that if the Federation broke up, we would then be given the Dominion status, which we had been promised as an alternative. And our people then held up their hands in horror and said, you cannot have such a clause because it cannot be broken. And if we included that clause, what would happen to the people who lent us money? The big international financiers, they would say, well, what is this about? How can we lend you money if you think you might break up? Who will then be responsible for this? So it just wasn't on. But I'm afraid it was on when we were dealing with the British government. And in the end, we agreed to go to the Victoria Falls Conference. I wasn't Prime Minister then, I was Deputy to Winston Field. And we received an undertaking from the British government that if we cooperated with them, winding up the Federation, we would get our independence no later than the other two territories. That was Northern Rhodesia and Nyasaland.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they went back on that undertaking. And without our cooperation, they would never have succeeded in winding it up. So our cooperation was essential. They got it on a promise. I was there when it was given by the British minister in charge, and then they went back on it. We went on for a couple of years. Some people think that we rushed into this and we lost our head and declared independence. No. We talked, we tried it. We went on for a couple of years. And in the end, we could see that they were just leading us up the garden path. And unfortunately, people were leaving our country. They had lost confidence. So there was a brains and a skills drain. And all in all, we eventually came to the conclusion that we would have to do something about it if we were going to save our country. And it was a very reluctant and heart-rending decision. But what could we do finally in the end but insist on the implementation of the contract? Many international lawyers told me subsequently that it was not an illegal act at all, that we had the right through law to insist on the fulfillment of the contract we had made. And that was what we did.
Looking back on it, was it a mistake, or did you do the right thing?
I think we did the right thing. We appointed a committee on 3 different occasions to look into this. The committee composed of both politicians and civil servants. And every time they came back and told us that we had no option and that if we hadn't done it, the country would have continued to run down with loss of confidence and the continuing brains and skills drain. It is a fact that from the time we declared our independence, the drain stopped, and in fact the reverse took place, and we started bringing in more specialists and people with expertise and experience. And we had a growth rate in our country which was double what it would have been in normal times. We had the greatest growth rate of any country in the world. So that was what UDI did for us. We developed, we created a wide base to our economy and became one of the very sophisticated countries, built up a tremendous infrastructure, sophisticated in Africa, second only to South Africa.
Helen, you were in Parliament at the time, on your own at the time.
Mm.
How did UDI seem to you?
Well, I didn't think it was not a mistake. I thought it was a mistake. And I said so. And Dr. Verwoerd, I remember, was, I think, very pleased about UDI, was he not? And perhaps that was one of the reasons why I wasn't. But, you know, I didn't have a real intimate knowledge of the Rhodesian situation, but I didn't think that it was just going to go on as a happy, growing country. And indeed, in the event, it didn't, because, I mean, after all, there was a war that lasted, what, 15 years? And cost about 30,000 lives, and, you know, to me, that, you know, that's the proof of the pudding, that it possibly wasn't the right thing to do. But I wouldn't like to comment, you know, specifically and say that what I would have done or not done. It's unimportant. But I do think that the war and the subsequent cost was enormous. I mean, you said, you know, it wouldn't happen in, that the independence in Zimbabwe wouldn't happen in your lifetime. And of course, Wilson, who was then Prime Minister, made the mistake of saying that it was going to be weeks rather than months that the UDI would last. So, I mean, neither side was right in the end, but there it is.
Mm.
Actually, what I did say was that I wouldn't accept majority black rule in my lifetime. This has been twisted somehow or other through the communications media. I was asked the question, when would I accept black majority rule in my country?
No, you didn't say it wouldn't happen. You said you wouldn't accept it.
My answer was that I was opposed to rule being based on color. I wouldn't accept white majority rule either. Why couldn't we have all the best people in our country contributing? So I said, in principle, I can't accept it. That means I can never, not in my lifetime or in 1,000 years, accept it. Mm. And I stand by that principle.
Is this how you see the future of African continental politics, rather than just Southern African politics? Do you think one man, one vote cannot work, or can it work?
You're asking me, are you? Well, I must tell you that it does not work in Africa. That's a fact. It's not a thought or a suggestion. It doesn't work anywhere in Africa. And I challenge anybody to tell me where it does work. You see, it is not part of African custom or tradition or way of life. It never was part of their system. Now, I think the fault of the Western powers when they pulled out of Africa, I think they were arrogant in saying to the people they left behind, you can have your independence if you accept one man, one vote in the Westminster system of government. Mm-hmm. There are leaders in Africa who told me personally that they didn't like it, they didn't want it, but that was what they had to pay for independence, so they accepted it, and they had what? One man, one vote once. Never again. You can easily have one man, one vote if you have a one-party system and there's only one candidate there, the same as they do in Russia, or in so many of the countries to the north of us, where the vast majority are either one-party states or military dictatorships. So don't let's pretend it's an easy, simple thing and that solutions for the rest of the world necessarily apply to Africa. They are completely different, and I think it is wrong, it is sad for politicians who live in the rest of the world to try to tell us Africans how to run our affairs when they know nothing about it, and more important, when they know that living 10,000 kilometers away, they don't have to live with the end result. If it all blows up, they are sitting over there, and they will say to you, excuse me, as they said to me, oh, but now you've got independence, that's your business, we can't interfere in it.
Now, unlike Helen, who's now retired from active politics, you are still in politics, aren't you? What are you doing at the moment?
Well, I sort of still lead, I suppose one could say, the only party which is in opposition in our country today. Although there has recently been a new black party just formed by Mr. Edgar Takeri, who has broken away from the government. And he was one of their big, strong men. But he's come to the conclusion that Marxist-Leninism is a failure, and he's now openly saying that, and that the country is riddled with corruption, and there must be opposition to the government in what is taking place. And I think the government are worried about him because he seems to be having great success. The information is that he's getting a lot of backing.
We'll talk some more about this in a moment. Ian Smith, thank you very much. And thank you. Thank you. Don't go away, because we'll be back with more Late Night Live after this.
Some household surfaces may look clean, shiny, and scratch-free. But look a little closer. See the dirt ingrained in those tiny scratches? Not with Handy Andy, because Handy Andy power cleans even the toughest dirt without scratching, and leaves your surfaces flawlessly clean and shining, however close you look. Intensified Handy Andy. Power cleans without scratching.
Welcome back to tonight's edition of Late Night Live. They say that growing up ain't easy, and I'm sure it isn't if your father spends most of his time away from home. Perhaps it's not surprising in this case to see the son being washed by some of the father's limelight. We'll find out about this nomadic existence after we've heard them sing the title track from the father's latest and the son's debut album. Please welcome Jean and Duane Rockwell.
Over
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jean and Duane Rockwell. We'll meet them in a mo, but right now it's that time again. Here's the weekend news roundup with Brian Oxley. Brian.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Good evening. American space officials have announced that the Voyager spacecraft, which has traveled over 2 billion miles, is to retire. On its trip, Voyager's received 3,000 speeding tickets, been bumper bashed 1,700 times by speeding meteors, and made 300 stops at interplanetary restrooms. During its 17-year mission, Voyager also took thousands of vacation snapshots, but scientists have been unable to examine them, as they were taken to a 1-hour photo kiosk and still are not ready. And following reports that there have been 7,000 dog and pig attacks on British mailmen this year, the post office is testing a new device which gives off high-pitched noises to scare off aggressive animals. It clips on the postman's belt and plays Michael Jackson songs. And other stories in the news, we heard this week that the Italians have invented a mafia scarecrow. Not only do the birds not take any seeds, they bring back the ones they took last year. And animal stories. 2 rabbits were stolen from a Johannesburg pet shop this week. Police say so far 14 have been recovered. And 1,000 wigs have been stolen from a Bloemfontein hairdresser. Police apparently are combing the area. The government has announced a new plan to bring down unemployment figures. They're raising the minimum school leaving age to 50. And on the sports front, Springbok rugby captain Jannie Breed was hit by a bus whilst jogging in Pretoria yesterday. He was unhurt, but the bus is not expected to recover. And people who exercise too much now have their own support group. It's called Athletics Anonymous. They promise that if you get a sudden urge to play rugby or tennis or to go for a jog, they'll send someone round to have a drink with you until the urge goes away. Following an announcement that Mickey Mouse is to be Kermit the Frog's new partner, the duo had a dramatic fallout when they met for lunch to finalize the deal. Mickey, without thinking, went ahead and ordered the frog's legs. And that's it for Weekend News Roundup. Back to you, Kevin.
Thank you very much, Brian Oxley. Lovely. We'll have more from Brian next week in the Weekend News Roundup. And welcome to Late Night Live, Jean and Duane Rockwell.
Hi, Kev.
Very nice to have you on the show. Jean, 25 years' work to become a household name. For Duane, it took him 6 weeks on TV. How does that make you feel, Jean?
Great. I've been a household name for 25 years, and you say 6 weeks it's taken Duane. It hasn't taken him 6 weeks. It's taken him 22 years watching me.
But
That's a good thing, isn't it?
How do you feel about I mean, let's call it instant stardom. How do you feel about that, Duane?
Kevin, the honest truth is it hasn't really affected my lifestyle as such. It's been 6 weeks, 6 incredible weeks on Fast Forward, which was, of course, incredible. And I've grown up with personalities around me. I've grown up with my dad being in the limelight all the time. It just doesn't figure that anything's changed. It really, nothing has changed, which is maybe very lucky for me. But they've been around me all the time. The famous people of our country and of our time. They've always been near and close, and I've always seen them and grown up with them all around me. It hasn't really changed anything. It's
No. Me, even Kevin, you've known him for years.
Yes, I've known Kevin for about 10 years, although he didn't recognise me.
This is true. We first met when you were 12.
12 years old.
I was working with your father. It's incredible. Helen, we've had politicians on television of late. How do politicians take the stardom that television brings them that they didn't have before?
No, it's sometimes an utter disaster. In fact, most times I think it is. Programs I've been watching, I would think that they'd have done very much better not have appeared at all.
Boots and all, I suppose.
Yeah.
Duane, the song was Growing Up Easy. That's also the title track to the album.
Right.
Was it?
Well, it wasn't easy. It was very different. It was very different. I grew up with a father who was always on the road. He was always working far away from home. He didn't do things that your average father does for his children. But he did different things. He did things that I suppose that other children or kids wish that they wish
Things like
their
what?
parents would. He gives you something very special because he's in the entertainment field. You get to see a different side of life altogether. A side that other people only really see on TV, or they listen to DJs, or they watch TV personalities. They were always with me, and that was always a big thrill for me. And he always supports me wholeheartedly because he knows that I think he grew up without the support of a family all the time, and he gives us a tremendous amount of support. And I've seen in friends who often said, geez, I wish my dad was a bit more like that,
Yeah.
or I wish my dad felt that way about the things I'm doing.
See, I'm still a Jolo, pal.
Not the longest hair.
The longest hippie in Joburg. What are you talking about?
I thought that was me, actually. You, in the album, you sing about various issues. And I suppose that's what music's about, isn't it? Singing about issues. How different, Jean, let me ask you first. How different do you think the issues are for the two generations?
Are you talking about making a name in show business, making records?
No, the things you actually sing about.
Not that much different. I tell you, we had I'd say, an easier time of, when I was Duane's age, all we used to worry about was going to sessions and having a good time. We didn't know about things such as drugs, and we never had those type of things in our lives. So I think they have a harder time today, you know, because they have this, when they go out, all the time the encouragement from mates who don't know any better, you know, have some, because try it a little bit, you know what I mean? We never had that. But then again, we had no money. Today the kids have got money.
Duane, is this true?
I think the pressures are just different. Just out of it. The pressures are purely different, I think. They had probably different kinds of pressures to grow up within a changing community. In the 60s, great changes coming about, in music especially, you know, with the advent of new types of music, and they were also scorned by their parents and the knowing few. And I think the pressures are just different. I do think that we have the ability now to do much more. We see more of the world. We have those possibilities, which is why I'm thankful I'm growing up now and not then.
Yeah. Ian, if I can drag you in here, does music help in politics at all? Would it have a role to play?
Tell me and I'll record it tomorrow.
Well, I'm trying to think if I can say yes to you, but it's difficult. I don't think it does play a part in politics.
Apart from, I suppose, a national anthem, a tune to rally round, perhaps.
Well, that's hardly got anything to do with politics. I think that's on a national level, and whether the politicians like it or not, I think. You've got your national anthem, and that's produced above the level of party politics, at any rate. Okay, a little bit of nice music is nice to relax and listen to when you get back home. Yes.
Good thing you said that. I was going to give you an album, now I will.
I was just thinking, actually,
Right.
possibly the music can affect the politicians, not so much the politics, but obviously affect the politicians making decisions. So if they enjoy a certain type of music, possibly they can affect the person, not so much the politics of a country, but the people who are making decisions.
Do you feel sad that you missed out on a normal childhood, having that as your father?
Hey! Yeah, well, slow down normal. It's not normal, Kevin, you look at it. No, not really. I don't know if there's a different kind of childhood to have, I don't know what it is. I don't know what I missed in many things, and I don't think that I've lost out in any way. I think, if anything, I've gained a lot. I really think I've had to maybe grow up a lot quicker than other people, which is, I think, an added characteristic to have, really. It's
Added
not
bonus.
I think it's a bonus, definitely.
Because
Helen,
Helen,
a drawback.
Helen, your childhood was kind of different as well, wasn't it?
Yes, well, I didn't have an exceptional childhood, really. I was quite a happy schoolgirl and so on. I don't know what you're really talking about.
Well, I've been reading...
There we go, Kim.
I have been reading a biography, albeit that I believe it was written in the mid-70s, on your life. It's called A Cricket in the Thorn Tree. It's a fabulous book, actually. And in there it says that you were almost a loner when you were at school. You had also the title of teacher's pet.
Oh, rubbish. I don't know who ever said that. No, I was, an average schoolgirl. I liked sport. I went to Parktown Convent. The nuns used to whack me when I didn't, do my homework. And they taught me to be a very bad loser. Because if you lost the hockey match, you got a whack from the nuns.
Did that help
in politics, that's
later?
excellent.
Yes,
because there's no good losing in politics. There's no second prize. So that was quite good for me. So, no, I had a very ordinary childhood, really.
Jean, on to you now. You've been married 23 years?
Right.
Now, you say, here's a quote now from Jean. You'll love this one. He's been married for 23 years. On average, he's only lived at home for 8 of those.
I'd say that's about right.
How does your wife cope?
Quite well. She loves it. How do you think we stayed married for 23 years? Kevin, everybody adapts. When we got married, I was 21 years old. My wife, if I tell her how old this is, she wouldn't like it because, but we were both pretty young. But when we were married, I had #1 hits. So she knew what she was marrying. It wasn't a case of marrying somebody and then becoming famous. It was already marrying somebody who had the hit records. Mm-hmm. So she knew what to expect.
Did you actually ever say to her, don't ever choose between...
Yes, I did.
She obviously made the right decision.
Well, yeah, still, today, music is still, not saying derogatory to my wife, but music is still my first love. It always will be. Excuse me?
I said shame on you.
Why? Helen, you taught me to speak the truth.
Well, that's right, it's a shame.
Yeah. No, like I say, it's not derogatory. It's people always say, if I had a choice to be blind or deaf, I'd rather be blind. Because my greatest fear of death is missing the songs that I'm not going to hear, you know that? Yeah. That frightens the hell out of me. Yeah. So if they're thinking of songs, the great songs, like when we were in London a couple of months ago, we saw Phantom of the Opera. Now, that to me was one of the greatest nights of my life. And I can't imagine dying and somebody writing something like that not being able to see it.
Is your wife your biggest fan?
No, I don't think so. She's my greatest critic.
Oh, really?
Yes, which I don't...
Have I hit a bit of a nerve here, Jim?
No, which I don't like very often, but it is a good thing. I do some songs that I think I sing great, and I take home the tape, and she tells me it's rubbish.
She's probably right.
You've made an enemy. No more for you.
Helen, I was just wondering...
She's not going to vote these two on the 6th, that's the trouble.
You've made an enemy. I was just wondering if...
I'm not voting on the 6th, period.
Have you ever thought about going into politics? Because you're very good. Ian, how does your family feel now that you're a cattle farmer? Do they prefer you as a cattle farmer, or did they prefer you as the full-time politician?
They still think I spend too much time in politics, and maybe they are right, because I am rather tied down. I still have too little time on my farm, even for my liking, because I pretty well still run what is the main opposition to the government in our country. So, in theory, I'm out, but in practice, I'm not.
And Helen, your family about your retirement, are they pleased?
Oh, I shouldn't think so. Having me at home all the time must be more than my husband could bear, I would think. Well, my daughters are no longer at home. You know, they've left home long ago, so it doesn't really affect them. And they've all been very supportive, as I said, all the way through. So, you know, we just You make your own decision, and they go along with it. They think it's quite a good idea for me to do something else now, you know. Try and write memoirs. Very lonely job, I might add.
I was going to ask if you were going to.
Going to try. And some people are going to be very sorry if I succeed.
Duane, what about you? You're the youngster here. You are the rising star, shall we say?
Well, let's hope so.
What have you got mapped out for the future?
Oh, Kevin, at the moment I'm playing it very openly, hoping that TV, now that it's opened up to me, I can explore TV to a great extent, because I love it. I've been bitten by the bug. I'm completely in love with doing TV. It's an incredible medium, I think very powerful. Like you said, 6 weeks can basically turn you into a face, if that means anything. And obviously music. I'm going to carry on with music as long as I possibly can. And I have a great yearning to do radio, which is something I've always wanted to do, possibly again because of my dad doing it when I was so young, which influenced me. Also another powerful medium. I've got a great yearning to get in. I just want to be in the entertainment field. I'm not really bothered about what I do, as long as I can actually entertain people and try and do something constructive in the entertainment field.
Well, that's nice.
As long as it stays in the entertainment field, like I say.
You're going to entertain us now with a song without your father.
Indeed, indeed.
And I produced it.
Did you produce it?
All right.
Okay, it's called We Can Be There.
We can be there.
Can you be there?
I can be here.
And we will stay here. What do you think of Duane as a singer, June?
What do I think as a singer and as a son, I'm as proud as hell.
Are you?
And I think he's fantastic. And I think if anybody could have a son like that, well, I hope that they could have one like that, because he has honestly taught me a lot, funny enough, by growing up the way he has. And, no, I think he's all right.
Well, I wish him the best of luck, and you too. Thanks for coming
Thank
on
you.
Late Night Live. Gene and Duane Rockwell, and here is Duane.
There must be another place, far from all reality, taking you beyond your dreams to where you want to be. can
Lovely.
Hello, allow me to take time off from network and tell you about some good news. It's JobLink, the Teledata personnel feature. And it's broadcast on Sundays from 11 to noon. So, watch JobLink or simply tape it and see what your future holds.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. That was, you can sing after all, Duane.
It's a trick, it's a trick.
I reckon there's a good future in front of you with a song like that.
I hope so. I mean, obviously, it takes a lot more than a good song, you know, and now, especially here, which is possibly a touchy subject. But I don't think there's enough attention paid to local artists. I'll exclude myself from the argument immediately.
Can I come into the argument here?
And yeah.
Seeing Duane has brought it up, you know, when you do an album like we have done, and in a unique situation, because as far as I know, we are the only father and son acting duo in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
In fact, we think ever.
And, you know, they're having a lot of father and son after each other, but to actually do an album together and to actually perform together, at the moment, I think we're the only ones. And yet in this country, you have a handful of people who decide how many albums they buy, where they put them, and on the radio, how many times you get played and when you get played. I just wish they'd be a bit more liberal, and like on Wednesday, let the people decide. Play it, and let them decide what they like. If they don't like it, then write into you guys and say, don't play that singer anymore.
Is it my fault again?
No, not really, Kev, but I've never heard you play our record.
I haven't, I'll be honest.
I will tell you, Kevin, Radio 5 are possibly the radio station that are backing it to a certain extent. But even then, when a record is really pushed, there's a record company lack of interest sometimes. And that is a problem, because when we brought up the fact that it's a unique situation where we could actually try and work off that and create public interest through the fact that we are possibly the only father and son duo in the world. And we were simply told, well, you're in the wrong country for that, you know. For marketing in general, I mean, that is really a silly argument. I didn't think that made any sense whatsoever. And the pity is, it's, I think, a lack of commitment, I think. Again, to exclude myself purely from the outsider.
Commitment's a very good word, very good word to use. We were talking a lot about commitment on Late Night Live last week with Clem Sunder, a whole kind of environmental thing. And the subject came up actually after the show, Ian, if I can just mention this to you, that Zimbabwe, as it is now, has one of the best environmental policies of any country in the world. Would you agree with that?
I think I would have to be convinced on that one. We have some dreadful problems of the destruction of the environment in our country with everybody, even ministers of the government, speaking on this and urging the people to desist from annihilating riverbeds of their trees and soil erosion and that kind of thing. So I don't know where you got that idea from. I'm sorry to have to say that I don't think it measures up to the practicalities of life.
What is day-to-day life in Zimbabwe like? Has it changed a lot from the old colonial days, if I can call it that?
Well, it really depends. Tourists and visitors say it still looks much the same. And on the surface, it is still quite good. You know, these people inherited, as the leader of their party told me the day he won the election, the jewel of Africa. And for a long time that's been holding out. But there are other spheres where things are not going well. In all honesty, one has to say the economy is getting a little bit rusty, and the supply of spare parts and materials and farmers. And I speak as one who have been waiting 6 years to get a vanette for their farm, for example, and who are told that it doesn't seem to be much hope even in the next 6 years. And you try to get spare tires and spare parts and that sort of thing. There is a crisis in the foreign exchange field.
Not doing so well here either.
That's for sure.
Helen, what would you say if you had
Come from our country and you'll realize.
if you had to say what was more important? Would it be the economy at the moment, or would it be the environment? If you've only got those two choices.
Well, I think how you look after the environment depends very much on how you look after your economy. I mean, you don't have the resources to conserve and to look after the environment if you don't have a viable economy. Two go together. It's like politics and the economy, they go together too.
You can stop people chopping down trees, though, and ploughing on riverbeds, etc., without necessarily having the right economy. I just want to make this point to Mrs. Suzman.
Yeah, that's true, but you've got to have the personnel who's able to do that. You know, you've got to employ the people to do it and to keep an eye on it. It requires quite a lot of expenditure, I should think.
When you've got so many people who are out of employment, it shouldn't be difficult to find them.
It's
to find the money to pay them.
Who's going to get the last word? It's going to be me.
Don't you pay them an unemployment benefit?
We do the politicians.
It's a fascinating subject, and I wish we could talk more about it, but it's, I think, already getting far too close to Sunday morning, and I'm exhausted. Thank you for coming on. My guests, Jean Rockwell and Duane Rockwell, thank you very much.
Thanks, Kevin.
Pleasure, Kevin. Thank you.
Ian Smith, thank you very much. And Helen Suzman, enjoy your retirement.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that wraps up Late Night Live for tonight. We will be back next week for the very last Late Night Live in this present series. So we'll see you next week. Be good to yourself, be good to each other, and be good to South Africa. Good night.